Hey guys, in this video, we're going to be setting up our API. All right, we're going to be setting up our API. So let's go ahead and start that. What we're going to do first is to install Axios because that's what we're going to be using. And because I'm using Yarn, I'm going to say yarn add Axios. And if you're using npm, you can do npm I Axios. And that should run in a couple of seconds. So I'm going to go back and start my server, which is yarn dev. And next thing I want to do is just click on the last file here, which is outside every other stuff. And then click on create new folder. All right. I'm going to name that folder API. I'm going to create a file in that folder called api.js. All right. I'm going to import Axios here. So import Axios from Axios. And then the next thing we want to do is that we're going to create an API const API equal to Axios dot create. I'm twitching. Axios dot create. And then next thing we want to do is to add base URL, and this base URL is the backend URL. All right. And we're also going to add a timeout. And the timeout is basically how long do you want a particular endpoint call to go on, and if it's not successful before it ends it. All right. I'm going to say 15 seconds, which is like 15,000 milliseconds. All right. The next thing we want to do is that we want to fill in this backend URL. All right. And then right here, what we're going to do is just going to copy the endpoint here. You can see that the backend is already running. So I'm just going to copy this and I'll create a different variable for that. I'm going to call this base URL. And I'm going to say base URL is equal to this. I'll take out the docs and the slash. So it's just going to be like this. And then I'm going to change this to base URL. All right. Then I'm going to export this. Export it. All right. And I think we're done on this particular end for now because we're going to come back later and move it to the env. All right. We don't want everybody seeing what your base URL is, especially if it goes into production. All right. So the next thing we want to do is that we're going to come back to the hooks that we created. And what we are doing currently is that we're just consoling.log in this. That's crazy. We are logging this, and what we want to do is we just want to change that to call that API instead. So API, and it's going to import that on line 1. So API dot get. All right. And what are we getting? We want to get slash users slash test. All right. And if you go there, we don't have any endpoints like that. So probably see an error or something like that. Right. There's no endpoint like that. So now let's go and create this endpoint on the backend and make sure that it does not have any authentication whatsoever. All right. So that we can just easily know that, okay, we finally have access to the backend. So what are we going to do? We're going to go to app.js, find the routes, and then you can see default routes. We're going to go to the one with slash users routes. All right. And I'm just going to duplicate this. Very simple. Duplicate this. All right. And I'm going to remove the post. We may have a post later, but I think all we just need to do is to test this. Remove the authentication and the validation, and then save this for now. Then we're going to go to the users. We're going to duplicate this also, and we're going to create something called test end users. It's just a name, you can use anything. Test end users. And then I'm going to take out the first two, leave results. And I'm not going to have this result call any serious thing. I'm just going to set it to an object, and it's going to be name John Doe. Simple. Save that and export that. Test end users. Then let's go back to the route and change this to user controller dot test end users. All right, very simple. Change this also to not be slash but to test. All right, and then that should be cool. Let's go to the front end and reload this and see what happens. So we have something login here. All right, not still the response we want. So just go back to your taskboard parent, put this in an object. That is destructure it, and then let's also destructure this. All right, so that we can know what is exactly is logging. And you can see that it's showing this now, but just to be sure, let's reload this. And if you go to the data, and you can see we now have John Doe. That means our API setup was correct, and we have been able to make contact with the backend. All right, let me see how much time I have. Okay, I still have a little bit of time left, but seems like we're going to end here for this particular video. Or should we proceed? Should we proceed? Okay, let's proceed. All you need to do now is to create an env file. All right, so I'm just going to do env.local. All right, since we are on Next.js. And also, I'm just going to now say, since it's Next.js, we're going to say next public and then you then call it whatever you want to call it. But all Next.js envs must start with the word next public. All right, I'm going to call this server URL. I'm going to paste this here. Always take out this, so it's just like the base left. All right, and then env.local. Did I do this right? So let's check git ignore. Git ignore. We should have something. Yeah, env.local. Okay, yeah, it should be .env, not just env. Yeah, .env. All right, yeah. So now what I'm just going to do is that on the API, I'm going to change this to process.env dot next public server URL. All right, and then the next thing I'm going to do is to just end my server and start it again. Not my server now, my front end, but still a server though. And then I'll try to reload and see if it gets the same information it was getting while we had. All right, and it seems like that's the case. All right, so we have been able to set this up completely from backend to front end and the env. So we're going to be proceeding in the next video with the next step. All right, so I hope you understood everything I said in this video, and if you missed anything, just rewind the video or play it a little bit slower so that you can get everything I said. All right, that's all for this video. See you next week. Bye guys.